Hello everybody, my name is Sarah and welcome back to Future Zoologist Academy. Today we are going to be learning about a very unusual animal with some very unusual traits. This animal has a very long sticky tongue, big sharp claws, and a long bushy tail. Today we're learning all about giant anteaters and what each of these unusual traits is really used for. Giant anteaters are the largest of the 4 anteater species. And though we do sometimes use the word anteater to describe animals like echidnas or pangolins, giant anteaters are actually more closely related to sloths than it is to those animals. We find giant anteaters down in Central and South America in a wide variety of habitats ranging from grasslands all the way to rainforests. Now, unlike their relatives, the lesser anteaters, which we also call tamanduas, giant anteaters are terrestrial, meaning they live on the ground. They walk on 4 legs with their long, sharp claws tucked underneath their hands, which actually causes it to look like they're walking on their knuckles. Walking on their knuckles keeps their claws nice and sharp and strong. And this is critical in allowing anteaters to get their favorite food, and their only food, ants and termites. Giant anteaters are insectivores, meaning most of their diet is insects. However, more specifically, giant anteaters are truly classified as myrmecophagous, which is the very fancy science word we use for an insectivore who eats primarily ants and termites. And myrmecophagous comes actually from a Greek word meaning to eat ants and aligns very well with the anteater's genus, which is Myrmecophaga. Giant anteaters use their long, sharp claws to dig, to break open ant hills and termite mounds, which sometimes can be as hard as cement. And being able to break these open is very important because giant anteaters need about 30,000 ants and termites every single day. And they're able to gobble so many of them up because of this long, sticky tongue they have. Their tongue can measure up to 2 feet in length, making it the longest tongue of any mammal on land. They can also flick their tongue 150 times per minute, which is more than twice every single second. And once they pull those insects inside their mouth, they don't chew them because, well, they don't have any teeth. Instead, they use their tongue and they squish the bugs up against the roof of their mouth to crush them up, and they continue to grind them up after they've been swallowed using these hardened folds that are in their stomach. Of course, before they eat 30,000 ants and termites every single day, they must be able to find them. And they find their food using their very impressive sense of smell. Scientists estimate that a giant anteater's sense of smell is more than 40 times as powerful as a human's sense of smell. And part of the reason for this is because of that very long snout they have. They have a lot of surface area inside of their nose, which means there's more space for something called chemoreceptors. Chemoreceptors are little sensors that we also have in our noses and on our tongues that are used to sense chemicals, otherwise known as smelling or tasting. The more chemoreceptors you have, the better sense of smell you will have. Scientists hypothesize that giant anteaters can actually differentiate between species of ants and termites just by using their sense of smell. Giant anteaters typically forage or look for food on their own. In fact, they do almost everything on their own because giant anteaters are solitary, meaning they do not like to live in groups. Though of course they do have to come together with other giant anteaters when it comes time for breeding. Giant anteaters don't have a particular mating season. They can actually breed year-round. And this is because where they live, it's warm and tropical, and the conditions are good for having offspring at any point during the year. When females are looking for a mate, they produce special pheromones. And pheromones are like communication chemicals that can only be smelled by other members of the same species. Males use their incredible sense of smell to sense a female's pheromones. After breeding, females are pregnant for about 6 months, and they typically give birth to one offspring at a time, which is called a pup. And females do all parental care. The pup actually rides around on their mom's back for several months after being born, which makes it easier for them to travel around, but also provides the pup with excellent camouflage. Giant anteater pups usually stay with their moms until they're about 10 months old, at which time they go off on their own to find their own territory. Giant anteaters typically have large home ranges or territories that typically include several different types of habitats. Females may have a territory that overlaps with other females, but males typically require their own territory, and they may even fight with other males for access to that territory. And the reason they need so many different habitats is because they use different habitats for different purposes. An open area, like a grassland, is a great place for a giant anteater to go forage or feed, whereas a forest is a much better place for them to rest, to stay hidden from predators, and to utilize that shade on very hot days. It does sometimes get a little chilly where giant anteaters live, and this is where that big tail comes in handy. They may use that long, bushy tail like a blanket to kind of cuddle up with to trap heat inside their body and help them stay warm on cold nights. Now, whether a giant anteater is diurnal, active during the day, or nocturnal, active during the nighttime, actually depends on where they live in relation to where people live. How close do they live to something like a city? Scientists have found that giant anteaters tend to be more nocturnal. They spend more time being active at night when they live close to people. And scientists hypothesize this is to avoid interactions with people who are most active during the daytime. Living too close to people has actually become a very big problem for giant anteaters for a couple reasons. Their territories experience frequent fires because farmers set fires in these areas to clear space so that they can grow crops. And in addition to that, the new farms and new cities that are being developed, they require roadways or freeways so that people can get to and from these new places. But unfortunately, these roads go right through the middle of giant anteater habitat and the habitat of dozens of other species. In giant anteater habitat, they're one of the most common animals to experience these incidents with vehicles on the freeways. But fortunately, scientists are working really hard to prevent this from happening in the future. They're studying the giant anteaters' movements, learning where they're going in their territories so that we can develop wildlife crossings that will allow anteaters and other animals to cross these roadways safely. And you can learn more about these wildlife crossings by visiting our Conservation Corner on our website. All right, you guys, thank you so very much for joining me today to learn about giant anteaters. If you'd like to learn more about the wildlife crossings or do quizzes, activities, projects, please be sure to click that link below to visit our website, and I can't wait to see you at our next adventure. Thank you very much.